The old MG5 was one of the best value electric cars around. It's just had a facelift. So is this new MG5 even better? We're going to tell you everything that you need to know in this review. But first, for a great deal on your next car, go to whatcar.com, and to see lots more reviews like this, subscribe to our channel. So what's new with the new MG5? Well, you can see straight away it looks very different from before. It's got a new front end, the rear bumper's different, you've got two new colours that you can choose from, and really the cosmetic changes are so big that it's almost like this is a new generation of MG5 rather than just being a facelift. And all these styling changes bring the car more in line with what the new MG4 looks like. And if you want to see our review of that car, then just click on the link at the top of the screen. There's also two new alloy wheel designs to choose from. Now, previously on the MG5, the biggest alloys you could get were 16 inches, but now if you go for range-topping trophy trim, then you can get these 17-inch alloys. On the subject of trim levels, there's been a slight rejigging so that you have two to choose from, SE and Trophy. There's also more standard equipment than there was before as well, including adjustable lumbar support for the driver and these roof rails. And another key addition for the facelift is automatic emergency braking. To be honest, it was pretty poor that this basic bit of modern safety kit didn't come as standard across the MG5 lineup previously. But that's different with the facelifted version, where every model does get it as standard. And now you can tow up to 500 kilograms, which admittedly isn't a lot, but you couldn't tow at all before. If you do want a tow bar fitted, you can get one as a dealer accessory. Another new feature with the MG5 is a vehicle to load function, which, with an adapter, helps turn this into basically a massive portable 3-pin plug. So you can plug in and charge up your laptop, you can plug in a kettle, or you could even charge up another electric car very slowly. There are big changes inside the MG5, and you can notice straight away it's got a very different look from before, just like the outside really. So now this fresh layout in here gives you a higher center console, which might sound like a small change, but actually in the old MG5 it was pretty low and just a bit more awkward using the gear selector and some of the buttons here. Now it just falls more easily to hand, and it also frees up this storage space underneath it as well. But the bigger thing to point out is just the general uplift in quality in here. It really does feel like a completely different car compared to the old MG5 when you're sat in it. So now you've got things like this nice textile finish on the dashboard. You've got this metal effect plastic that helps lift things as well. And this isn't the best electric car interior around, but it is a big step forwards from the old MG5, which had loads of hard, cheap feeling plastics, and really the interior wasn't a strength of that car. Whereas now you'd say that actually this probably is a strength of the new MG5. There's also been an upgrade in the tech that you get as well. So now you have a 7-inch digital driver display, as well as a new 10.25-inch touchscreen infotainment system. This again is a big step forwards from what you had before. So you get Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, all as standard. There's loads of other functions on it as well. You can now get a 360-degree camera on range-topping trophy trim. But some of the icons are a bit small and difficult to hit on the move. And also, of course, it's a shame that you've got the climate controls on the touchscreen as well. It would be better if there were more physical buttons like these ones at the bottom of the screen to help use some of those functions, because it's just much easier to use those physical buttons while you're driving than it is prodding at this touchscreen. But overall, the quality, the layout, the tech, it's at least as good as what you'll find in a VW ID3, and that is a much more expensive electric car. The dimensions are unchanged from before, so the facelifted MG5 is exactly the same in terms of practicality as the old MG5, which means an adult sat in the back will be absolutely fine here. There's a good amount of legroom, headroom's pretty good as well. You do have a slightly awkward sitting position because the floor feels relatively high to this low rear bench, but aside from that, it's very good back here, especially when you consider that for the money, the other cars that you might be looking at alongside the MG5 are much smaller electric cars like the Honda E, the Mini Electric, the Renault Zoe. This is much bigger than them. In fact, the only other electric cars that can rival the MG5 for practicality are other MGs. The boot is the same as before, which means, again, compared to similarly priced rivals like the Zoe and Mini Electric, this is significantly bigger. It's not huge by estate car standards. Things like the Ford Focus estate or Skoda Octavia estate are much bigger. But for an electric car at this budget, it is very practical. The new MG5 has the same battery and electric motor as the old MG5. So that means the battery has a usable capacity of 57 kilowatt hours. There's a 154 brake horsepower electric motor, and you have an official electric range of 250 miles, which is very good by electric car standards and becomes pretty exceptional once again when you factor in the price of this car. Things aren't quite so impressive when it comes to charging up. The maximum charging speed is 87 kilowatts. That's faster than cars like the Zoe and the Mini Electric, but the MG4 and Peugeot e-208 can charge faster. From a 50 kilowatt rapid charger, a 10 to 80% top up in the MG5 can take around an hour, but that drops to just over 40 minutes if you find a 100 kilowatt charger. From a 7 kilowatt wall box, 0 to 100% takes more than 9 hours, while a 3-pin plug, if you aren't in a hurry, requires 29 hours. Now, yes, the new MG5 looks different on the outside, different on the inside, but mechanically, there aren't any changes. So that means that the driving experience now is just the same as it was before, which isn't a bad thing. There wasn't anything horrifically wrong with how the MG5 drove. So now, just like before, you've still got a fairly softly sprung car that's comfortable. It's got smooth, accurate steering, body control's fine. This isn't the most amazing electric car to drive, but it is comfortable, it is predictable, and it's all very nice. With the new 17-inch alloys, you can notice a slightly harsher ride than an MG5 riding on 16-inch alloys, but the difference isn't huge. Now, in the old MG5, there were some traction issues. So with traction control off, sport mode engaged, a bit of steering lock applied, and full throttle, you could do things like this. With the new car, there are also still some traction issues. So yes, this is a reasonably quick electric car, but you do have to be slightly careful with how you feed the power into the MG5. Now, the pricing. There was a time not so long ago when you could get an MG5 for £25,000. Now, with the facelifted model, the cheapest version you can get is the SE Long Range, which costs £30,995. So that's quite a big jump in pricing. But that's partly because you can't get the UK government plug-in grant anymore. And also MG would argue that the cosmetic upgrades, the new equipment that you get, that justifies a slight price hike as well. So yes, it is more expensive than before, but the fact is, even at £31,000, this is still incredibly good value because all other electric cars are very expensive. And in fact, the only cars that really significantly undercut the MG5 are other MGs. So you've got the MG4, the MG ZS EV, and part of the reason why they can look a little bit more competitive in terms of pricing is because they're available with smaller, cheaper batteries, whereas the MG5 is just available with one big battery and 2 trim levels. So the new MG5 has a new look, but it still offers a great value EV package. The impressive range and pleasant driving experience from before remain, and there's now a much better interior to go with it all as well. For much more on the MG5, go to whatcar.com, where you can also get a great deal on your next car. Click on the link to find out more. But before you go, make sure you subscribe to our channel to see lots more reviews like this, and tell us in the comments below, do you think the new MG5 is better than before?